Exactly 1 year ago, at about 6:29 a.m., Hamas and other armed Palestinian groups launched an unprecedented attack on Israel, killing 1,000 plus people. Well, Israel, of course, reciprocated and responded with a much more devastating offensive, which has so far killed over 41,000 people, and that's according to the health ministry in the Hamas-run enclave. Well, this war has spiraled into something even bigger, and with that whole earthquake happening in the Middle East, there are concerns that this is even spreading to other parts of the world, and the big question is, when will this end, and how bad will it get before it ends? We're joined on the program this morning by someone who has an understanding of the happenings. He's an international affairs expert. Dr. Adoyo Mali is right here with us in our Abuja studio. You're welcome to the Morning Brief, Dr. Mali.
Good morning, good morning.
I know there's the academic angle to this. There's the human angle to this as well, seeing all of the deaths. But speak to us about what you've gleaned from this so far. 1 year. It is not a celebration. Anniversary, yes. Commemoration, yes. But clearly this is not something we want to be commemorating as a world, as a people. So what is your, internalization of this so far, 365 days?
Well, 1 year into the conflict, the recent conflict in the Middle East, I would say that before I begin, I want to commiserate with all those that are involved on both sides. On all the sides, not both now. It's very unfortunate that this event has to happen. This is because of the disagreement between all the parties in the conflict, which has had a historical antecedent, right from 1947, when the British mandate partitioned Palestine. And the conflict has remained up till what happened last year. What happened last year is unacceptable. It's barbaric. It's not right at all. People at a music festival massacred, people in their homes. So it's clearly a terrorist attack. Nothing warrants that type of onslaught on a sovereign country. So it's very unfortunate, and it's just that the retaliation by Israel has led to a lot of bloodshed, and which also is not acceptable. The United Nations and other bodies have to wade in to nip this crisis in the bud so that it does not go further than what has happened.
So what are you gleaning now? When do you think this will be enough for Israel? I know Israel had said they will ensure that Hamas is not able to launch such ever again. They're going to cripple. So does that concern you? Does that give a clear definition of when this will be enough? Or what do you think is now the goal for Israel in all of this? We still talk about all the other factors, the US, other countries, even Nigeria saying that Palestine deserves its independence, sort of stepping into this in some sense. But when do you think it will be enough?
As long as the parties get the negotiation table and arrive at a compromise, the crisis will persist. Don't forget that from Camp David to the Oslo Accord and several other attempts to reach a compromise have not yet the necessary results. Even the various discussions since the last 1 year, spearheaded by Egypt, Qatar, the United States, have not yielded much in terms of a compromise between both parties. So both Israel and the proxies of Iran, they all have a very hardline position. And in international negotiation, they have to be give and take. The two-state solution has not been accepted by all the parties. And so we are envisaging a long-time disagreement. But what I will say is that international efforts should not relax. They should intensify these efforts. The United Nations, as an agency set up to enhance international peace and security, has to be on top of their situation. The Security Council and others, because most of the resolution 1709, which was passed, that Hezbollah was supposed to move into give some buffer zone between Israel and Lebanon,
Right.
have not been respected by Hezbollah.
So we've seen Iran, Lebanon. We don't know who will be next. And the fear now is this will naturally get bigger. We've seen the deaths of generals here and there, and naturally there will be retaliations. And you wonder, these retaliations will keep going back and forth and maybe even get bigger. I don't know who you want to spearhead this, because I think everybody has tried what they can do so far. I don't know what more can be done, which is why I ask one, do you think that there's a goal for Israel in this, where you think Israel has met the target and then it would pull back? That's on the one hand. Secondly, you mentioned the UN, even the US referencing the role it has played so far. Whether or not they're able to really spearhead this conflict resolution process, right? Because it looks like they have done this, and so far it has failed. Now, the bigger question is, are we on the verge, and I'm sure you probably answered this, how close, if there's a doomsday clock, how close are we to a possible World War III?
The world will do everything possible to avoid a World War III. That is why there is a lot of caution. Even Iran, when it attacked Israel sometime last week, firing almost 200,000 missiles on Israel, they made it very clear that it was just to warn Israel to back down. They are not looking forward to an escalation. The United States, which is a major ally of the Israelis, do not want a major escalation of this conflict. And I believe to Israel too, is not willing to escalate the conflict beyond what it is. I think all Israel is doing is to ensure that its borders are cleared so that it can sleep with two eyes closed. Every country will want to do that because the level of attack from the south, from the north, is becoming too much by the proxies of Iran, including the Houthis. I think what Israel intends to do is to degrade as much as possible the capacity of these proxies surrounding its borders to be significantly degraded with tunnel shafts, with missiles, and so on. They have been able to use the Iron Dome, but increasingly you can see that even the Iron Dome and the David slings,
yeah.
they may, in the long run, they may not be able to protect Israel to the level they want. So they want to do some clearing within the area. But I think both Israel and even the parties involved, they will not want a full-scale escalation because it will have a very devastating consequence on the entire globe.
Well, I think it's having some sort of, consequence already, but it's not on that scale just yet. And that brings me to the role of the U.S., which is the elephant in the room. By the way, you speak to that doomsday clock if you have any in your mind and how close it is. So the U.S. plays a pivotal role in this one. The U.S., we've seen the Secretary of State moving around, trying to mediate, organize meetings, and be a part of it. So the U.S. has to, on the one hand, or is expected to bring an end to this conflict, sort of mediate and be the big uncle that it is and said, you know what, let's solve this. On the other hand, we've seen the President Joe Biden, for example, talking about discussions about, attacking oil facilities. You saw what that did to the prices of crude oil. And the U.S. has elections in the coming days, and American people would obviously look at this war, what the possible presidents will say about this war, and use that to decide who to vote for. So do you think the United States, particularly the Biden government, which wants to get reelected, the Democratic Party, is maybe in a dicey situation right now to full-on support Israel in this now that other parties are coming to attack it, or mediate peace, and then that might affect re-election? Do you think the U.S. is considering all of that?
The Israelis or the Jews, they are a very powerful group within the United States. And no party, both the Republican and the Democratic Party, cannot afford to be on the wrong side of the Jews in America. They have the resources, they have the network within the American system. And if you listen to both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, the two major contestants in the American election, from their statement, you know that none of them will radically change the support for Israel. Biden, during the campaign, when he was contesting with Trump, everybody thought that he would have a different posture by the time he became president. But it is clear that whether it is Republican or Democratic Party, the Americans are solidly behind Israel as a state. This is very historical. This has taken time, and we are not seeing any difference. Don't forget that the Americans have vetoed virtually most of the resolutions at the Security Council and even at the United Nations General Assembly.
So isn't that a conflict of interest, right? Because when you come to the table, and just before we go to Bukola, when you come to the table, other parties see you as someone supporting Israel already. So there is that mistrust.
Yes.
Can we trust you in all of this? So don't you think that is even antithetical to what they're trying to do?
I agree. President Macron of France made the statement that, look, the West cannot be supplying arms to Israel and at the same time saying that they are mediating, which Israeli Prime Minister sharply reacted by criticizing President Macron for calling for a ceasefire and arms embargo against Israel. So, yes, I agree. It looks as if there's hypocrisy in play. You cannot at one side, one time saying that you are mediating and then the other time you are giving support to Israel. But like I said, the Americans' foreign policy is very, very clear on Israel.
And it looks like that's not changing.
And that is not going to change in the near future.
Well, Bukola, over to you now.
Thank you, Kadi. Maybe I should just slot one before we end this segment. Dr. Omnai, prior to this time, there had been increasing worry about the isolation of Israel. That's, as we approach, 1 year anniversary. But now with the entry of Lebanon and Iran into this war, it seems as if, Israel is becoming increasingly isolated. What do you assume would be the position of the other joint Arab nations and Islamic countries? Will they continue, to stand back and watch this?
Well, Israel has consistently maintained that they are not fighting the Arabs as a people. And that position has been made very, very clear. Israel is fighting terrorist organizations, Iran proxies, and Iran itself. Those are the people that Israel is targeting. Now, the rest of the Arabs, in as much as they have sympathy for Palestine and Lebanon, don't forget that they are wary of Iranian influence in the Middle East because their brand of radical Islam is virtually not acceptable to the rest of the Middle East. So you could see before the October 7 massacre, the Saudi Arabia and Israel had gone very far to restore diplomatic relations. And Jordan, Egypt, and several other Arab nations were already engaging positively with Israel. Because of the agenda that Iran intends to push within the region, most of the Arab nations are not really in support of what Iran is doing. Look at Yemen, look at what is happening in Sudan and several other parts of the Arab world. Even in Egypt, if the Muslim Brotherhood were allowed to take over power, they were going to deal ruthlessly with even the Arabs that are their citizens.
Right. So
because of this fear of Iran's version of radical Islam, the Shia ideology, the Sunnis and other parts of Arabs are not really receptive to an Iranian control of that region.
Interesting dynamic here, Dr. Mali. We really have to anchor, but few seconds. How many minutes to a possible world war, if you have that clock in your head?
The world will try as much as possible to avoid a world war.
So we're still far from that.
Yes, because the key players, Russia, China, and other key players in the international system, they are all interested in how this crisis can be nipped in the bud.
Okay, yeah. Dr. Mali, interesting viewpoint there. We hope that we don't come back to commemorate another year of this war, but we'll be speaking with Dr. Adoyo Mali, international affairs expert. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We'll take a moment now, and when we return, we're talking everyone's dream, literally. We all want to go someplace, have a good time, but then there's another twist to tourism, and you do not want to miss this. Stay with us.